What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the EvolvedJeepin channel. So guys, the original plan for this video was that in the video, I was going to be installing some replacement parts for my AccuAir 3.5-inch dynamic lift kit and giving you guys a 2-year review of this lift system. But yesterday, when I was filming the intro for this video and installing the parts, I ran into a little bit of an issue. The issue was not to do with the installation. That went super smooth. The issue had to do with the filming of the intro for this video. Basically, while I was filming it, I ended up just in a little bit of a spiral. Basically, I couldn't get the words out. I wanted it to be perfect. And in the end, the footage that I caught just ended up being a little bit too robotic, and I really didn't like it. So after seeing that video, I decided that I'm simply going to just redo it this morning. And instead of the video being about us installing the part, it's more going to be about us recapping what we installed. And then I'll give you guys my 2-year review of this lift kit. So same content, just more past tense instead of present. So guys, before I get into the review of this video, which I should also mention that this is our 2-year review, our last review video for the AccuAir 3.5-inch dynamic lift kit was a year ago when we did the 1-year review. And since then, we've actually had a good opportunity to test this lift kit out a lot more off-road. We actually attended the Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival in Butler, PA. That was in June. And at that event, we actually had the first opportunity to off-road this Jeep on some really good blue trails. We also had the opportunity to put the Jeep on the Flexi machine. I know that's not the actual name, but it's basically the trailer that you put the Jeep up on, and then they flex out the corners, and then they give you a corner index number. That was really cool because it was cool to see how the AccuAir air suspension did compared to regular spring suspension. The second time, or the next thing that we did that we could actually test this out off-road on, was on our 2-week road trip to the Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion. During that road trip, we actually had the opportunity to stop in and do 3 Badge of Honor trails. All 3 of the trails were very different, all had different levels of dynamics and, obstacles. So it was really cool to see how the Jeep would perform. Overall, Jeep had no issue. I actually had to deal with some confidence building, and throughout all of those obstacles and throughout those trails, my experience and confidence got a lot better. The Jeep had no issue. It was just me being a little bit nervous. But guys, where this ties into what we're dealing with today is because after that 2-week road trip, I actually noticed that the Jeep was driving a little bit funky. It had some weird driving characteristics going on. And it's been a challenge. It didn't make sense because the Jeep didn't drive like this the first time I put the AccuAir system on. It is something that's just simply developed over the last year. What I was having, or I was experiencing, was on the front end. The front end just felt a little bit loose. Every time I hit a bump, it just felt like the steering wheel was all over the place. And it also felt like the front end was a little bit sway. So that was what I was experiencing on the front end. And then on the back end, I felt like the back end was a little bit washy. So from time to time, I, hit some bumps as well, and the back end would kind of shift. Or we'd be driving on the freeway, and it would feel like the back end would kind of want to pull to some ways. And it usually was when there were some grooves in the road, it would kind of catch and pull. And all of this just kind of made the Jeep kind of weird to drive. The steering wheel's kind of all over. You're kind of fighting everything. And it just didn't seem right. And it actually kind of made you feel a little bit nervous. Oh, I should also mention that on the front, I was also experiencing a little bit of death wobble. So that was interesting as well. So over the last 2 months, what we've been trying to do is figure out what has been going on with the Jeep and what's the issue. First thing I tried was to replace the shocks. And what we ended up doing is installing a new version of the JRI AccuAir monotube shocks. So these are the shocks that now come in their AccuAir lift kits. I have had the original JRL ones in it, and from what I was told, the originals were not tuned that great. These new versions are definitely tuned a lot better. I thought the shocks were the issue. I thought basically the shocks maybe had gone bad and, that was causing the vehicle to do some weird performance things. But when we installed the new shocks, it didn't change. The Jeep did ride a little bit better and it, was tuned a little bit better, but it still was loose in the front end and washy in the back. Also, guys, if you want to see that video where I installed that, just click on the link above and you can watch the video on what I did and see my overall feedback about their new shocks. So after we installed the shocks, the next thing I did was to jack up the front end because we needed to figure out why the steering in the front end felt a little weak. When we did that and we started turning the wheels around, we realized that our TerraFlex adjustable steering stabilizer that you can see right there was actually in the wrong setting. So I actually installed that stabilizer maybe a week or two before we went on that 2-week road trip. And when I installed it, I put the little red knob in firm position. But what I found out is that even though it says firm right there, that's actually the soft setting. So I had to flip it around and then it helped my steering. That also helped my death wobble. So the death wobble that I was getting was when I hit a certain pothole with maybe one tire, the wheels would chatter. Once I changed the steering stabilizer, that all went away. So that was kind of fixed, but it was still a little bit sweaty that we were still experiencing that issue. So at this point, I had run out of things I could figure out because when I was underneath the Jeep, I checked everything and everything seemed good. I didn't notice anything. I didn't necessarily put a tool on anything, but I just was kind of looking at it to see if it was good. What I did at that point was I went over to Daytona Enterprise and had Jimmy take a look at it. Daytona Enterprise is a Jeep shop, or it's a truck and Jeep shop that's been around for maybe over 20 years now. It was actually run by his father, and now he is running it. And the amount of experience they have is phenomenal. And I knew that if I take my Jeep over there and have Jimmy look at it, he'll definitely find something that needs to be addressed. So he took the Jeep for a drive and then he jumped under it and he found 2 issues. The first issue was a very simple one. Basically, for some reason, the sway bar links on the suspension had come loose. So that was giving me a little bit of the sway up front. Not sure why that happened because when I installed them, I did torque them. So possibly throughout the amount of trails we've done and the little bit of flexing I do every time with this vehicle, whenever I'm at an event, possibly that has just led to those links becoming loose. And that was the issue. So we tightened those up and I have to say the front end is definitely a lot better. The second issue that he found was actually to do with the rear end. What he found was that the lower control arms, the bushing near the frame on one of them had actually pushed out, and he could visually see this. This is definitely something I would have never seen. So this just shows the amount of experience that he has, that he can quickly eyeball something and tell me that there's an issue. So definitely learned something today. And what I did after I found out that is I actually went ahead and contacted AccuAir and said, look, this is what we're seeing. Here's a photo. It looks like the bushing has pushed out. Eventually it's going to get worse. Is there, should this be like this? Can I get a replacement? They answered me back and said, yeah, that doesn't look right. Here's what it's supposed to look like normally, which looked normal. And they had me check the bushing to see if there was any movement. So what I did is I went under with a small screwdriver or pry bar and checked to see if it had movement. It had some forward and back movement, and then it had a bunch of side-to-side movement. And while I was under there, I actually went ahead and checked the other control arms and all the mounts, and the fronts were fine, but the other back also had some side-to-side movement. It didn't have front to back, it just had side-to-side, so that one was a little better shape, but they were definitely not good. So sent the video to AccuAir, and they said, okay, look, we're going to send you some replacement control arms. So guys, that is what I installed yesterday, was some replacement control arms for the rear. But the way AccuAir sends their kits is everything is kind of packaged up from the manufacturer. So their control arms actually came in a full kit. So I ended up getting the 2 rear control arms, 2 front control arms, 2 rear upper control arms, track bar, front track bar, rear track bar brace, yeah, everything. And oh, forgot to mention, also some sway bar links. And I should also mention that the control arms that they sent are actually their newer version. I'm not sure if it's just a cosmetic update, but basically the new ones have a little AccuAir logo on it. I think that's the only real change. I think everything else is still the same, but there's no way for me to really know. Maybe they've fixed things, maybe they've changed bushings, but visually they have a cosmetic update. So what I figured is, because I got the back and I have the fronts as well, I might as well replace them and have the new look. So have the logos on it, because I do want the AccuAir logo on the suspension, because I think that was always something I thought was a little strange. You know, they sent this kit, but there was no branding on it. It was just a basic kit. So what we did yesterday is we replaced the lower rears, the front lower ones, and what I also did is I went ahead and replaced the sway bar links. The reason I did the sway bar links is because the sway bar links that I got originally, which I actually go grab one at the end of this video to show you guys, were, you know, they were kind of just a generic part, and I don't know if they were actually good. Now, because I believe that AccuAir has partnered up with Mopar, these sway bar links look Mopar quality. So I think these are going to be a lot better than those other sway bar links. And to tell you the truth, installing these was a lot easier. Where with the other ones, I felt like I had to torque them way much further past the torque spec that Jeep offers. Where with these, I torqued them to Jeep specs and they're pretty good. So guys, what we're going to do now is show you guys how the installation went for the control arms. There is going to be a small pause in it because I want to show you guys the comparison of the old control arm versus the new. So that is going to be a pause in there, and then we'll wrap everything up. I don't have footage of the sway bar links. That was not filmed, so that is not going to be there. But when we come back, what I'll do is show you guys, you know, what the control arm shape it was. Well, I don't need to show you that because you already see that. But I'll show you guys what the sway bar links look like and why I changed them. And then I'll dive into the 2-year review of this lift kit. So guys, I wanted to pause the installation of the control arms to take some time just to show you guys the current shape of the control arm. This is the passenger rear one, and this was the one that we noticed that the bushing had pushed out. And when you compare it to the new one, you can see pretty much the same length, no difference there. Only difference is this label here. The bushings, I can't tell if they're the same because one's brand new, but you can tell that the old bushing is definitely worn out. And it was not just one side. Both sides have started to wear out. This side has a little bit of play in it, which was surprising. But this would definitely explain why my rear end has felt a little bit washy. I just haven't had the support needed to keep it in place. What you can see here is with this bushing. This is the top one, the one that we noticed. You can see you can pretty much push this back and forth. It also has side-to-side play. It's definitely done. So it's nice the fact that we're getting a new one to put in is probably going to fix my ride quality. Why this happened? Well, that is something that's kind of difficult to explain. Possibly when I was installing this, I did something wrong. The instructions at the beginning were not that great. I know they have updated their instructions so much and they're so much better. Recently, I just took a look at them and they're so clear. I think when I installed this and torqued this, possibly I did it in the highest position and not at the ride height. Not sure if that caused the issue, but you never know. Also, you know, maybe this is different than the current ones. Maybe the first round of manufacturing was a little bit of a mismanufacturing, and unfortunately that happens when you're buying the very first kits. Sometimes you get into this phase where, you know, what you get is maybe not the best, and they learn and make improvements on new ones. Either way, I've got the new ones now, so I'm super excited to get them all installed and to see how much more this Jeep rides. So let's continue getting these all installed so that we can see if they did improve the ride quality. So guys, you can see that the rear lower control arms definitely needed to be replaced. Those bearings or those bushings have definitely gone bad. And that would explain why the Jeep was riding so bad. For the front, even though they didn't need to be replaced, I did anyways. And I wanted to show you guys the status of the front control arms. This is the old one right here. Overall, front bushing looks fine. I don't see any issues with that. The rear one, or vice versa, also seems fine. There's a little bit of surface rust appearing on some of the welds. You can see right around there. You can also see around where this tab is, but nothing too concerning, especially because these have been through 2 winters now, and salt on the roads. They're in pretty good shape. So front ones, not an issue, but because they sent me new ones that have the new branding on them, I figured I'd go ahead and replace them, because the more I replace from the original kit, the closer I get to being the same as their current generation kits that they're selling. So while we're under here and we've got the wheels turned, let's go take a look at the sway bar length to show you guys what the difference is and why I've replaced it. One thing I gotta tell you guys is when I received my kit in the very beginning, I actually didn't have sway bar lengths. They seemed to have forgotten to put them in. So I ended up contacting their customer service at that time, and they ended up sending me a pair of sway bar links. These are the ones they sent me. And to be honest, these don't seem like they were necessarily part of the kit. They might have been just something that they had or something that was available. The reason I say that is because I've had some issues with these from the beginning. Basically, I felt like the bottom was always a lot, or the widths were always a lot smaller, and with this sleeve design or this style here, we ended up like crushing them. Sometimes you can see that one's actually crushed, and I think this caused a little bit of my problems, because when I was torquing these, I had to go way past the Jeep spec, and it still never seemed tight. So I have a feeling that the sway bar links, the reason my sway bar links were loose, had to do with just the quality of the sway bar link that I had at the beginning. The new sway bar links that they've sent are definitely Mopar quality. Even like, look at the base. Just the base is just a lot better. You know, we have that regular factory style top on there. We have the, you know, with a little bushing. Everything about that just seems a little bit better. And I'm super excited that these came with the kit because now I have them on the Jeep. And I think the fact that I'm using or have Mopar quality sway bar length on it is probably also going to help the Jeep ride a lot better. So guys, one positive to the fact that yesterday I couldn't wrap up this video because I was wasting way too much time with that unsuccessful intro is that I've actually had some time to drive the Jeep with the new control arms. And I can now say and give you the feedback that the new control arms definitely fixed my issues. In the rear, I no longer had that washing effect. It feels nice and firm. When I hit bumps, it stays straight. Everything seems way better in the back. And then for the front, even though I said tightening those sway bar lengths fixed my issue and adjusting my steering stabilizer, I have a feeling with the new sway bar lengths, the steering has definitely got even better. Not sure if that's a thing or if this is just a mental thing that I'm thinking, but it does feel better. I personally feel that right now my Jeep actually rides better than it did on day one of installing the AccuAir kit. And I think that has to do with the new shocks that we're running. I feel that with these fixed control arms and the new shocks, I finally get to experience how much better those shocks are. I think before, when I did the video where I flipped those shocks over, I don't think I was able to truly experience the new tune because I was having some other issues. And guys, these issues that I had with the control arm, as I mentioned, they could have been manufacturing issues, they could have been installation issues, but either way, what I really like about this issue that I've had is that it truly shows that AccuAir stands behind their product. Yes, they have warranty, most brands do, but with AccuAir, everything's been really smooth. All I've done is any issues I have, I just simply send them a message and they're like, okay, bim bam, it's shipped, it's on its way. So it's been super fast. So even though this kit cost a lot of money and I'm experiencing some issues, which I should also mention, the kit I have, or the kit I got in the original, was one of the first kits. And with anything, as you put something out in the market, things happen. They learn things and they make changes. As I said, the new shocks and possibly the new control arms are updated. I don't know, but it's part of R&D, it's part of development. As things are in the market, as they have more testers using it, things get better and better. So even though the price point is high, definitely think this is worth it. And I think it's worth it just because this brand has great customer service. So you're spending the money and you're getting the service as well as good products. Now that we've gone over all the replacement parts that we installed yesterday, we can now get into our 2-year review. But to do that, I actually want to recap some of the points I had in my 1-year review video. And if you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out because some of the points I mentioned in that video have changed recently over the last year. Obviously, my positive points have not changed. They're still positive points, but my negative points have changed a little bit. But let's start with the positives. So the first positive I have is the fact that this lift kit is adjustable. There's many ways that this is adjustable, but a few of the cool features are if you're driving on the freeway, you can actually lower it down to get better gas mileage. That is something I do on a consistent basis when I'm doing long trips. You know, better gas mileage just means a little extra money in your pocket, so that's really nice. I also do find that on the lower setting on the freeway, the Jeep does drive a little smoother, so that is another reason why I tend to do that. Also, the fact that you can adjust the ride height if you need to get in and out of a low clearance garage. For myself, last winter when I had my rack up there with my skis, I actually had issues getting into a parking garage at ride height. But luckily, all I had to do was lower it down and I could crawl my way through and park the vehicle. So that's a really nice feature. So if you're somebody who parks your Jeep in a garage at home and you're concerned that if you lift it, it won't fit, with this system, you can simply just lower it down and put it in and then take it out and raise it back up. So really cool. Also, what I experienced this year is the adjustable air ride is really good when you're trying to adjust clearance, either it's, you want better approach angle or departure angle, you can easily raise or lower the front and back to have that on the trail. So that was a really nice feature. One thing I want to mention is this system can easily flex out on a trail. It has no issue. But in the event that you're kind of leaning in a way and the cab feels a little uneasy and you're a little uncomfortable, with the AccuAir system, you actually have the ability to adjust and level the cab when you're in that situation, just to make yourself a little bit more comfortable. Yes. Does it necessarily make the Jeep lean less or transfer the weight? Maybe. I'm not quite sure, but I don't know how much weight we're transferring the engine weight, so you are shifting a little bit of weight, so maybe it does add a little bit of stability while you're on the trail. But that was a really cool feature that I did get to experience this year. While we're talking about positive, let's talk about the fact that this is a smart system. So with it, if you're too high or too low and you go over 25 miles per hour, the system will actually adjust to put you back to ride height so that everything rides correctly and you don't run the risk of breaking anything. So that's a really cool feature. Also for towing, or if you're running a lot of weight, this system has the ability to self-level. So say you have a trailer on and it's causing the back end to squat. As soon as you drive a little bit, it will actually level it back out to the ride height that you've set it to. So really cool feature, and makes towing anything a lot better. Or if you're simply just loading up the back, it makes everything just a lot smoother. So that's a really cool feature. Some positives I have about this is, after doing this inspection and looking at the control arms, besides the two control arms that we had issues with, a lot of the parts are well made. I'm not noticing any rust issues or anything concerning. The bags are all in great shape. There's no marks. Yeah, everything just seems to be moving smooth. I haven't had any issues with my compressor. The new purge valve that I installed last year is working good. The new tray. Overall, guys, the parts that come in their kit are top notch. They seem to be able to handle all the elements I've thrown at it. I live in the Northeast, where we do get a little bit of snow, but definitely get a lot of salt on the roads. Some time to time I drive up to Canada and never seem to have had an issue with lines, pumps, bags. Everything seems to be able to handle cold. So yeah, overall, good quality parts are available in the AccuAir kit. So guys, let's get into the negatives. I'll let you know, I don't really have any negatives to add, but the negatives from the last video have changed. So the first negative I had was ride quality. And I have to say, after getting these new shocks installed, the ride quality of the AccuAir system is a lot better. And actually the other day I had the opportunity to drive a lifted Jeep with a JKS system in it. And I have to say, when I compared the two, the AccuAir system actually drives a little bit better. So the ride quality used to be an issue for me, but with these new monotube shocks, it's way better. It's definitely where it needs to be. I still want it to be a little bit smoother. I want this thing to ride like a Cadillac, but you're not going to get that out of monotube shocks. So hopefully in the near future, I'll be able to get my hands on a set of the piggyback adjustable JIR shocks and be able to tune this to make it ride the way I want. But that's just me being picky, guys. Again, the new shocks are way better. So at this point, the ride quality of the AccuAir 3.5-inch dynamic lift kit is no longer a negative for me. It's definitely more of a positive. The next negative I had to do with a purge valve noise, or a noise in the line. So what that ended up being is the check valves for the front bags. From what I've heard and been working with them and giving their feedback is that it now has been fixed. So the new check valves shouldn't have that noise. So that is something that has been addressed. It's not really a concern for performance. It's just been a noise issue. So now I actually have the new valves on my Jeep and no longer have a noise when I air up or air down. The last issue that I had in that video had to do with the controller and the bright light staying on at night. What I have been informed and wasn't in the original instructions is the fact that there's actually a purple wire that you can connect to your, it's a sensor wire, and you can connect it to your headlights, and that will trigger the control box or the switch panel to switch and dim its light. I haven't actually done it yet. I haven't got around to getting under to install that, but I've heard that is the solution. Also, I've heard and seen that AccuAir has updated their instructions to include all of the issues that I have mentioned and some more. So their new instructions are very much complete, where the first ones were a little bit of a guessing game. So a little different in a sense. So they've definitely done a lot of R&D and made their system a lot better, not only to have it on your Jeep, but also to install it. So really cool to see what the AccuAir team is doing, and look forward to seeing what they continue to add to this market. Yeah, guys, overall, really happy with this system. I have no complaints. Everything seems to be riding great, especially with the new control arms. Obviously, defective products are not a great thing. I am not considering that a negative thing. The reason is because sometimes it happens. Again, could have been my reason. I could have installed them wrong and that caused an issue. But the positive, or I guess a positive I should mention, is their customer service and their warranty. They stand behind their products. If you're having an issue, they actually to simply send some or troubleshoot it and send some evidence, and then they send you the new parts before you even ask for it. So definitely great customer service. And for the cost of this price, you're getting that service you require. So guys, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them below. I hope that you did enjoy this video. I know it's mostly me just talking and showing some clips, but I hope it was enjoyable. As usual, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Keep evolving, and we'll see you guys on the next video.